The problem that holds your power. Why the $5 trillion great ownership transfer is your greatest invitation. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast, hosted by LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce like sweet softness whispered in French. I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Tonight, I had the extraordinary privilege of sitting down with Latasha Artis, a visionary leader who is not just reshaping the landscape of Black entrepreneurship. She is demolishing the walls that have kept generational wealth locked away from our communities for far too long. Latasha is building bridges where there were only barriers, creating pathways where none existed, and reminding Black women and entrepreneurs everywhere that we have the power of the problems that come up against us. We cannot be shaken with God on our side. Her work is transforming communities, preserving jobs, unlocking doors to $1 trillion opportunities that have been hidden in plain sight. And what she shared with me, what we're about to unpack together tonight, is nothing short of revolutionary. So let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. When you hear the phrase business ownership transfer, what comes to mind? Probably something boring, right? Maybe you picture old men in suits signing papers, handing keys to their sons, keeping wealth locked in the same circles it's always been in. You might think, that's not for me. That's not my world. That's someone else's inheritance. I'd say, someone else's opportunity. It's someone else's destiny. But what if I told you that right now, in this very moment, there's a $5 trillion wave building, $5 trillion, and it's about to crash? What if I told you that this wave, this great ownership transfer, is not a threat to your survival, but the single largest near term opportunity for Black entrepreneurs to capture massive, life changing, generational wealth? What if I told you that if we, as Black buyers, close the participation gap, we could unlock $369 billion in wealth for our communities? $369 billion. Let that number sit with you for a second. Let it breathe. Let it settle into your spirit. Now, here's the counterintuitive part, the part that Latasha Artis helped me see so clearly, the part that flips everything we've been taught upside down. We've been conditioned to fear transitions. We've been taught that when businesses close, when owners retire, when industries shift, that's a loss, that's a problem. That's something to brace for, something to survive, something to endure with our heads down and our capes on. But what if the very thing we've been taught to fear is actually our greatest invitation to thrive? What if the problem is the power? What if the obstacle is the opportunity? What if the door we thought was closing is actually swinging wide open? See, right now, baby boomers are retiring in record numbers. Over the next decade, millions of small businesses, businesses that employ more than half of America's workforce in some states, are going to change hands. And here's the part that should wake us all up. Black entrepreneurs currently own just 3% of small businesses in this country. 3%. That means we're capturing only $87 billion of the value in play. But if we reached parity, if we stepped into ownership at the same rate as everyone else, that number jumps to 369 billion. That's not a typo. That's not a fantasy. That's not a maybe one day dream. That's math. That's opportunity. That's God opening a door so wide we can walk through it with our heads held high and our hands open to receive. But here's where it gets even more urgent, even more personal. Latasha Artis shared something with me that stopped me in my tracks. She said that in sectors like healthcare and social assistance, where Black workers make up 18% of the workforce, Black owners currently hold just 7% of the businesses. 7%. These are industries facing over 90,000 business exits in the coming years. 90,000. And if we don't step up, if we don't prepare, if we don't claim our seat at the table, those businesses will close, or they'll be sold to buyers who don't look like us, who don't live in our communities, who don't care about preserving the jobs that keep our families fed, our neighborhoods stable, our children hopeful. But if we do step up, if we prepare, if we train, if we access capital, if we build the networks and the knowledge we need, we don't just save jobs, we create wealth, we build legacies, we shift the entire economic trajectory of Black America. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, um, LeAnne, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't know how to buy a business. I don't have the capital, I don't have the connections. I'm just trying to keep my head above water as it is. I'm exhausted. I'm stretched thin. I'm barely holding it together. And I hear you, sis. I really do. Because that's the superwoman cape talking. That's the voice that says you have to do it all alone, that you have to figure it all out by yourself, that if you can't see the whole staircase, you shouldn't take the first step. But let me tell you what Latasha showed me. Let me tell you about what's already happening, what's already working, what's already proving that this is possible. Let me tell you about the University of Toronto's Black Founders Network. This program, this beautiful, intentional, community centered program, took 24 Black entrepreneurs, 58% of them women, and walked them through an intensive cohort based accelerator. They didn't just teach them how to pitch, they didn't just connect them to investors. They gave them the tools, the training, the confidence, and the community to launch scalable ventures. And you know what? All 24 founders completed the program. All of them. That's what happens when we create inclusive pathways. That's what happens when we stop waiting for permission and start building the infrastructure we need. That's what happens when we say, I don't have to do this alone. I can learn, I can grow, I can step into ownership with support. And it's not just happening in Toronto, you know, it's happening in healthcare facilities across America where Black professionals who have worked on the front lines for decades, who have seen the inside of these businesses, who know what works and what doesn't, are now preparing to step into ownership. They're not just employees anymore. They're becoming employers. They're not just workers. They're becoming wealth builders. Think about that for a second. A Black woman who's been a nurse for 20 years, who's cared for patients, who's kept hospitals running, who's been undervalued and underpaid, now has the opportunity to own the very facility she's been holding up. She can preserve the jobs of her colleagues. She can create wealth for her family. She can build something that lasts beyond her lifetime. That's not just business, that's justice, that's power, that's divine alignment. And it's happening in rural communities too, places where over 50% of employment comes from small and medium sized businesses. These are towns where if businesses close, entire communities collapse. Tax bases disappear, services vanish, families struggle, young people leave, hope fades. But if Black buyers step in, if we claim those businesses, if we lead with intention and faith, we don't just preserve jobs. We stabilize entire regions. We generate 2 to 3 trillion dollars in new household wealth for underrepresented groups. We prove that economic power doesn't have to be concentrated in the hands of a few. It can be distributed. It can be ours. It can be shared. It can be multiplied. Now, let's talk about what this means for you, because this isn't just about statistics. This isn't just about billion-dollar projections. This is about your life, your family, your future, your legacy. Maybe you've been working in healthcare for 20 years. You've seen the inside of the business. You know what works and what doesn't. You've thought about ownership, but you've pushed it aside because it felt too big, too risky, too far out of reach. But what if this is your moment? What if the great ownership transfer is your invitation to step into the role you were always meant to play? Or maybe you're in a rural community and you've watched local businesses struggle, can show, and you've thought someone should do something. What if that someone is you? What if you're the one who buys that business, who keeps those jobs in the community, who builds wealth, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you? Or maybe you're a woman who spent decades carrying everyone else, and you're finally ready to build something for yourself. You're ready to drop the cape. You're ready to say, I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm thriving. I'm creating, I'm owning. This is your soft girl era, sis. This is where you stop grinding yourself into the ground and start grounding yourself in purpose, in power, in the unshakable truth that God has equipped you for this moment. But here's the thing: opportunity without preparation is just a wish, and preparation without action is just a plan that never leaves the page. So, what do we do? How do we actually step into this? First, we educate ourselves. We join programs like the Black Founders Network. We seek out training, mentorship, and resources that are designed for us by us. We stop waiting for traditional systems to open their doors, and we build our own doors. We knock them down if we have to. We create new blueprints. We rewrite the rules. Second, we access capital. Yes, capital is a barrier. Yes, then, but it's harder for Black entrepreneurs to get loans, to secure funding, to find investors. But it's not impossible. There are community development financial institutions. There are impact investors. There are grant programs and inclusive financing models specifically designed to support Black buyers in this moment. We have to seek them out. We have to apply. We have to advocate for ourselves. We have to show up with boldness and faith. Third, we build networks. We connect with other Black entrepreneurs who are on this journey. We share knowledge, we share resources, we lift as we climb, because when one of us wins, we all win. When one of us breaks through, um, we create a path for the next person. When one of us claims ownership, we expand what's possible for everyone who comes after us. And fourth, we act. We identify one business transition opportunity in our network. We reach out, we ask questions, we take the first step, even if we can't see the whole staircase, because faith is not about knowing the outcome. Faith is about trusting that God will meet us in the middle of our obedience. Faith is about stepping forward even when your knees are shaking. Faith is about believing that the problem you're facing is actually the power you're carrying. Latasha Artis reminded me of something so powerful, something I want to leave with you tonight. She said that we have the power of the problems that come up against us. We can't be shaken with God on our side. And that's the truth we have to hold on to. The great ownership transfer is not a problem, it's a promise. It's a $5 trillion promise that if we show up, if we prepare, if we step into ownership with faith and strategy, we will not just survive, we will thrive, we will build, we will create generational wealth that changes the trajectory of our families, our communities, and our entire culture. So here's my question for you: what if you stopped seeing obstacles as things to survive and started seeing them as invitations to thrive? What if the very thing that looks like a barrier is actually a door? What if the great ownership transfer is not something happening to you, but something happening for you? This is not about working harder. This is not about grinding until you break. This is about working smarter, softer, more strategically. This is about releasing the cape, redefining strength, and embracing the truth that you are worthy of ownership, of wealth, of rest, of joy, of everything you've been building toward. Latasha Artis is out here doing the work, creating the pathways, proving that it's possible. And now it's our turn. It's your turn. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Today, right, any. Identify one business transition opportunity in your network. Join a Black Founders program, connect with a mentor, apply for funding, take one step, just one. Because that one step, that one act of faith, that one decision to stop surviving and start thriving, that's how we unlock $369 billion. That's how we change the game. That's how we step unshakably into ownership. You have the power of the problems that come up against you. You cannot be shaken with God on your side. And this great ownership transfer, this is not just an opportunity. This is your divine assignment. This is your moment. This is your power. Don't let it pass you by.